Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item D is approval of minutes from December 5th, 2022, regular council meeting. In the absence of any objections or corrections, the minutes shall stand approved. Hearing none, they stand approved. Item E is citizen communication. If there's someone in the audience that would like to address council on anything that is not on the agenda, they can step up to the podium. Otherwise, anybody that is on
WebEx is not functioning.
Don't have.
I apologize. It looks like it's Joel's account, and it looks like Joel's 365 account has expired, so I can't log in.
Okay. All right.
We'll do it the old-fashioned way. We got the Northwest signal here. We're in good shape.
All you need.
Exactly.
Back in olden times, this was all we did.
That's all
That's
right.
right. You remember that, right, Lori? All right, moving on to item F, reports from council committees. F1, the electric committee did not meet on December 12th, 2022 due to lack of agenda items. F2, the water, sewer, refuse, recycling, and litter committee did not meet on December 12th due to lack of agenda items. And F3, the municipal properties, building, land use, and economic development committee did not meet on December 12th due to lack of agenda items. And F4, the Parks and Rec Committee did not meet on December 19th due to lack of agenda items. Moving on to item H, introductions of new ordinances and resolutions. The ordinance number 080-22, an ordinance creating the non-bargaining position of Public Safety Administrative Assistant for the City of Napoleon, Ohio, amending ordinance number 077-22, and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right. Hey, Chad?
This legislation, as it states in the heading, is to create an administrative assistant for safety services. This was brought to committee, and it was recommended to bring it to full council. As we discussed last meeting, this would create a position that would assist both police and fire. Years ago, there was a part-time position in place at fire. Once that individual left, it was never replaced. This item goes in conjunction with 082-22. Currently, the clerk of council splits her time assisting the police department. If this position's created, in which we would have an individual for police and fire, then in 82-22, it's proposed to modify the existing clerk position to just do the clerk's job, but then take over records management for the rest of the city. I know police has requested some assistance with primarily some of their record keeping, as well as record requests and information. And I'm sure Chief and Brittany would be able to expand and answer any other questions you might have regarding this position.
I guess my first question would be the part-time person that was for the fire department. Was
Yes.
that person located at the fire department?
Yes, she was. Julie worked over there.
She's here at my office.
Yeah. Do you remember how long we had Julie?
She was here from when I started started in 2008 until,
About 5 years ago?
yeah.
Yeah, she left about 5 years ago.
And who took over? Who took over after that then?
Who took over,
Those duties?
that just got split up amongst different staff.
It's my understanding that someone in the admin building was doing it.
For a while,
A portion of it.
yeah, for a while, the receptionist at the front desk was assisting with some of that work. The current receptionist, I don't believe assists with any of that currently.
Do we know why?
I don't know. That was decided by the previous city manager without my knowledge. I don't know, is there,
She takes on more duties for Parks and Rec than been in that position previously did before. So she handles all Parks and Rec, and then she handles zoning now for potential
Okay.
heights and anything that comes through the door in that aspect. So permits, zoning, anything like that she handles, so she doesn't have the capacity on her desk to handle the fire side.
I know there was some requested information regarding compensation and the effect this would have on the budget. Brittany prepared a memo that was in your packet. If we look at the 2023 rates, we would have this biweekly pay scale, and you can see the annual rates there. If we add in benefits, if this individual received the lowest salary, this is what the benefit costs would be, insurance and such. If they came in at the highest range of the salary, which I do not believe is what the intention of this was, these are the numbers that would be associated with it if they were to mirror the executive assistant to the law director. Another option here is if the wages mirrored the executive assistant to appointing authority, which is a different title and different pay scale. If we look here, the lowest category, if they had a family plan, it'd be about 80,000 versus the 108 at this pay scale. And then there is a third option. If we had mirrored the administrative assistant position with the 2023 rates, and if we assume they had a family insurance plan, lowest end of the scale would be about $71,000 impact to the budget. And that's just significant to keep in mind. As we mentioned, this was not a budgeted item. We discussed that at the last meeting, so just so you're aware. We had three options.
I wanted to ask just a follow-up. So when we hired Marissa for clerk of council 7-8 months ago, it was positioned to myself, at least, that her time would be split between clerk of council and helping out Chief Mack at the fire department, or police department, excuse me. How much would you say your time is divided currently with that, between the clerk of council and?
It's non-existent for the police department, that's per Joel, she's not supposed to touch anything for the PD stuff.
Okay,
Chief, since Joel has left, gives her things here and there, that kind of go in hand with what she does here, so listening to the tapes for investigations or just conversations and typing up the information, so they have to have the notes from those videos. Other than that, I don't think there's much more that she has done.
Yeah, and I guess other than asking her directly, I don't know how much time she has available once the clerk duties are completed.
How much time we got left?
Depends on the week.
Typical week.
Typical week, probably have 80% for you guys and 40% for them available.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Wasn't there a
So-
request for desk and stuff for Marissa at the police department?
Yes, I'd actually put a request in that she was budgeted, is
Yes.
budgeted for some office furniture for her. We would be sharing facilities until we figure out what we're doing with the building, that last phase of the remodel type of thing inside.
I just have a question for Brittany to clarify. You said that the previous city manager told Marissa that there isn't time to do that, even though the position that Marissa has reports directly to council, not to the city manager.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I guess now that I'm hearing that, first of all, I'm gonna apologize to Marissa that we weren't involved in this, because I had no idea that that was going on. I personally would say, I don't think, I wouldn't vote for this right now, because I think there's a problem with the position that's already created to help, the police department. And I apologize, Chief Mack, if that wasn't being done like it should have. I would like to get together, figure out how much time the clerk of council needs to fulfill the duties that council needs, and then what is left to help out the police department. And if, there's 38 hours that we need her for and only 2 hours for you, then obviously we need something else. But right now, hearing what you just said, I had no idea that was going on. We need to fix that.
My main concern, and I do not disagree with you, Mr. President, but my main concern, at least down the road, is the number of people handling, at least for item number 1 here, number of people handling these records and concerns. That is my concern down the road.
So how many people handle it now?
It could be several. Isn't that right?
Yeah, right now,
How-
the fire department split between all captains, and 3 people plus whatever paramedics on scene, and then in dispatch, and that's where I was digging up reciprocity and what the 6th dispatcher was for, and it wasn't originally for doing any administrative duties other than pulling records. Over the last couple of months, I've been able to embed myself in the police department to be able to see things from the boots on the ground, because that's where a lot of the truth is. And not because Chief has issues going on, but because in order for me to better understand how I can serve them as employees, I just felt like it was necessary for me to get to know them, see what they do, how they function. December 4th being a specific day that I was there, I got to experience being with second shift and how one call took a whole shift. One dispatcher is focused on that whole call from start to finish, and even preparing documentation afterwards so that the officer can write his reports. They don't even have time to go to the bathroom, to eat. They're literally devoting their time to not leave that phone. And then looking at December 9th, where I was there from the beginning of first shift all the way to the end of second shift, watching how same person, one incident in the morning they had to handle, I had an officer who had to stay over to then relay information for the same individual that they're getting another call for. And I had another dispatcher having to stay over to handle calling our detective to get him brought in. And then I have my dispatcher on the phone with somebody providing CPR instructions to an individual. So all hands are on deck constantly. And looking back at reciprocity and why the 6th dispatcher was brought in is to alleviate my dispatcher having to stay over, or that officer having to relay information of what happened earlier in the day, where you've got 2 people there, that there's some of that overflow, but then also to alleviate the stress of records retention in the police department, because they have over 1,000 records, or 1,000 people coming in for records a day. Tanya takes the grunt of it, but most of the time, she's not even able to get away from her desk to go pull records from in the back and then bring them up to get them put together, to then give them to Ed to assess, make sure they're correct to go out. So that's originally why the 6th dispatcher was brought in, so not to handle anything admin other than to focus on records retention, because they need to, but they can't right now, because they're so limited staff. We just hired, we're now back up to 6, we dropped to 4 again and had to hire 2 in a short turnaround, so now those individuals are in training for the next 10 to 12 weeks is kind of what we say, so we don't have even the time to do records retention in the police department other than Ed doing it as things come in at their pace.
So when you say the multiple people that touch it, how will that change if the multiple people, either police or fire, are experiencing
We should
the-
have, especially due to confidentiality, we should have one person handling those records instead of several. Like in my office, I'm not allowed to touch anything that relates to probation because that's not my assigned area. So that is my concern. Didn't you interpret that, Doc?
Yeah, this is the position that would be dealing with the HIPAA compliance, right?
Yeah.
So,
How would they
One-
get that
one-
information?
well-
This person, how would that person get the information?
One of the problems that was brought before the board that had our concern was the HIPAA compliance, because it's some of the most strict regulations you can run across, especially if you break a HIPAA compliance. A good example of HIPAA compliance, if somebody would walk into my office and see an X-ray that belonged to somebody else that I forgot to pull down, that is a HIPAA violation.
Right.
And it's very simple things like that. The more people you have involved with handling different things, the more chances of people that shouldn't be seeing information out in the public. And that's the reason why I think we as a group recommended that it come to council to be looked at, because we were concerned about HIPAA compliance and potential for litigation against the city.
So right now, we have multiple people
We have-
performing this position.
According to what they were saying, we have
Yes.
multiple people
That's what we're
handling.
trying to say.
And billing is also HIPAA compliance. So when you have billing codes that go out there, and if you've got multiple people handling billing codes for the fire department on EMS runs, that's all HIPAA compliant stuff.
And that, Mr. President, is one of the main reasons in the committee that I voted in favor of moving it here is that.
None of us like the idea of hiring another person. but
Yeah,
none of us
nor
like the
did I
idea of
like the
breaking
idea that it
HIPAA.
wasn't in the budget. And of course, when you just alluded to a few minutes ago, we had no idea of that either. So, but that HIPAA issue and the number of people handling things is my main concern.
so if you look at just the EMS and fire side, some specific items that cover the billing side of things, so face sheets, is that what you guys call them? Same thing? So a face sheet comes in, this is a one-pager that has all the pertinent information from the hospital about an individual. Their date of birth, social security number, their name, their address, their insurance coverage, their emergency contact, all this information is on one sheet. They call it a face sheet. This face sheet has to make its way to Acumed, who's our billing company. So you have multiple people processing face sheets through ESO to then go to billing for Acumed. So you have people uploading information into the system to make sure it's attached appropriately to go. You have individuals correcting EPCRs with personnel from the department that were on the run, that were not originally on the run, to make sure the information is correct. So you have a couple different hands touching that to make sure the runs get fixed. If there's any information missing that Acumed needs or wants, you are processing billing information, you're double checking that everything Acumed needs is there, that the EPCR runs correctly and that everything's flowing through correctly, all the information that the paramedic collected on scenes entered in appropriately, all the boxes are checked, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. They're then tracking this billing information above and beyond that to make sure that it goes all the way through. And then at the end of the month, Acumed sends monthly reports to say, all right, this is who we billed, this is how much we collected, and breaking it down versus this is how much their insurance was collected, this is how much they now specifically owe the city, and then what you do from there, what's the leftover balance. So you have multiple people seeing that information, and so kind of just containing it down to one specific individual that can funnel that information very quickly, I also think will help us in the long run collect more money, because we have one specific person focused on it as well, versus multiple people just trying to make sure the information's in there so we can at least get it billed.
So it sounds like this has been going on for quite a while, this process. I guess my main question is like, why wasn't this brought up before budget? Because we just passed that, and now this is a huge budget item to add afterwards? Or is this something that we can talk about for the next, 10 months and then add it to the budget for 2024?
What do you have to say before I answer that
I was just gonna clarify the role that our captains are playing. So, we have the authority to do, peer reviews on all of our calls. So, our captains do a peer review the following day on the shift before. They do that for just making sure treatments were right, everybody did things correctly on the call, actual patient treatments and patient contact. Whereas the billing information comes in after that of just, like we said, crossing the Ts, dotting the Is, making sure everything's there. We've actually had quite a bit of compliance increase in our calls, less calls sent back to EMTs following the captain starting to review them. Probably more likely because they can go back and tell them, hey, you gotta fix this and make sure that that's right next time, or I'm gonna get kind of upset if you keep sending them back to me. So it's been nice to have their eyes on that end. But even with the new position, what it's gonna do is gonna free up the hours for those captains. I've gotten a just between all three captains of how long it takes. It takes an hour and a half to 3 hours a day to review those calls for the billing information alone. That doesn't sound like a lot until you combine a captain being offered it. Now, the next captain's got 2 days to review or 3 days to review, and it can build up. I have one guy out sick for 2 weeks, the next captain has to pick up that work. I think we can all understand the importance of the billing information, but one person handling that, we can all say HIPAA compliance-wise would be much better on the billing side of things. But even more importantly, freeing up 15 to 20 hours a week for my captains to train people here is more important than that. So they're doing a great job at doing it. They took it on their own without anyone even asking, so props off to them to pick up that work with no one even asking them to. As soon as they saw them starting to back up, they took it on without even telling us that they were gonna start handling that, just so they could make sure that it got caught up. So they did a great job, but I do think that their time is spent better out in the operations of the city, not so much in the administration portion of it. They need to be out there training, doing walkthroughs of buildings, making sure people are safe.
Thank you.
To answer your question about the budget piece, and Chief and I have gone back and forth on this, I didn't feel like it was appropriate to bring it up in budget, just because by the time it crossed my desk and we did the research for it and what was needed on it, it was too late. I didn't also wanna throw something at you at budget time, knowing that there were gonna be a lot of questions when we're short a city manager. I needed you, I wanted you guys to focus more on the budget versus here's another position, and then having to dig into the details of that versus more having a conversation with you guys after the fact. We're not looking at this position going in right as soon as January hits. We understand that there's gonna be some conversations had, and that's what we wanted to work through. We just didn't feel like the budget was the right time to put it in there.
I don't think the budget's a problem. Chief Mack, you've been chief for going on 6 years,
Yes, sir.
and you've been fully staffed approximately how many months out of those 6 years?
Not many is as specific as I can get right now.
Right.
Not many.
How many open spots do you have right now that are currently in the budget?
Two patrol officers, we got 2 dispatchers in training.
Right.
We offered a patrol officer, so we're down 2.
Okay,
I got a third one that's gonna be departing anticipation mid-January. Waiting on other agencies, physical tests and so forth.
right.
So,
You down a lieutenant also right now?
yes, one of those 2 officers were down as a command officer.
Okay,
And the other one is a detective.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things we're gonna be.
so there's a lot of dollars there that are in the budget that are not going out because we have slots associated with individuals that are not yet with us. So, and realizing that we're not gonna hire someone today for this, I think we can make it work. There's gonna be some budget adjustments and those kinds of things. And if we're all fully staffed, then it's gonna be more of a pull on the budget than, you know, looks like we're taking extra. The benefit information on the 2023 salary, family is 70, just call it $71,000 to $70,973. But I think we can make those budget adjustments happen. Are we missing out on grant opportunities that we could be able to pursue if we had a little more administrative assistant help
So,
in the agencies?
one of the things that Lori had asked me to look into was digging up some more information of, like, duties for this individual. So, working with Joel and with Chief, one of them, like looking over, if I look at payroll, just in that department. So processing vacation and time off requests to kind of alleviate some of that duplication of chief having to do it, that person can focus on doing it. Processing timesheets and making sure they get to us quickly and efficiently, so chief can free up his time on that. Helping with the schedule, whether it's for fire department or police department, making sure the schedule's right, if there's any massive screw-ups or anything that pops up where somebody calls off, that the person can help as well. Going through all the billing stuff, big thing that's coming across Joel's desk right now is a CMS data collection poll, which is gonna take this individual that's, if this position goes through, or even just Joel individually, about 8 hours a day, just to do the data collection poll every day that CMS is needing in order to update Medicaid and Medicare costs. The ticket item that came across his desk last week, that's a big thing that's being pushed. Yeah, it's only for a year, but he has to collect all that information for all of 2023 and then report it in 24. And it's not just run information, it's financial information, it's dedicated EMS billing information, it's dedicated EMS supply information, apparatus information, just things that you wouldn't even think that they would be interested in, but they are. Run reports and information regarding EMS runs and transports, process paperwork needed for the EPA or a fire marshal. There are reports that they call and say that they need just based on any fire call that they go on. Track and issue all radios, pagers for personnel, keep track of all lockers, spare keys, department uniforms, and turnout gear for all departments. Training, input, and track all employee information for training and certifications. Process new training materials to be completed on a monthly basis. Provide reporting to the fire chief and the police chief where an employee stands with their certifications. Specifically working with Greg too on that kind of thing. Purchasing, invoicing, processing all incoming invoices for the department to finance, requesting PO from the finance department for items to be purchased. Process contracts as needed for the fire and police chief. Help with scheduling fire inspections and making sure that reports and letters go out, which would free up a lot of Joel's time with that. Accountability, attending any fire or police calls that are needed to track accountability on scene. Update any systems with needed personnel, certificates and duties. Process all requests for the fire chief or police chief for signatures. Ensure that both chiefs are aware of schedule and any items that are time sensitive. Grants, specifically process and write all grant applications on behalf of both departments. Track the grants. Provide reporting for the state that they need it on a monthly basis, sometimes a weekly basis, depending on what it is. There's a lot of grant money out there that we could be getting a heck of a lot more. And I think within itself, that person within probably their first couple of months could bring in enough grants that would cover their position, no questions asked. And those are just some of the items that we came up in the last 2 months. I mean, there's plenty more that we see going on with personnel.
Thank you. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, specifically the grants, there's a large one that we're still waiting on, but that was Assistant Chief Fry who spent the dozens and dozens of hours for that. I've tried with grants, been successful with some, but with no doubt, there's a lot of things I'm not looking at because I simply don't have the time. In comparison, I think you can see the sheriff's office has been relatively successful lately getting grants, but they have someone dedicated to that role in the administration side.
Okay.
So,
Yep,
specific to
thank you.
that topic.
I have just a couple of questions. First, I wonder what Billy's thoughts are on all of the HIPAA.
Just generally, or, I think the reasons given are important. And I think it would be in council's best interest to trust staff, as to what they need. Police chief tells you he needs something, fire chief tells you he needs something, to better do their job. If it's in the budget and it's reasonable, I would say that the council should probably go ahead and do that.
From a legal standpoint, you think?
From a legal standpoint, I mean, the HIPAA stuff is obviously very important. Reducing the number of people who touch the information is obviously very important. If we could narrow it down to 1 or 2 people, that would be ideal, of course. It's not always possible, but I like what they have to say about having this dedicated person manage that kind of stuff. Reducing liability for the city, that would be helpful. Yeah, I like what I'm hearing personally. I don't vote, obviously, but I generally trust the police chief and the fire chief to tell me if they need something. I will generally myself try to get it for them, of course. And I don't think they would bring anything frivolous up here to the council. So.
I agree. I guess to the committee members, then I'm wondering if the question came up, why? I mean, I've been here for 5 years. Dan, you've been here longer than that. We've never heard like this is an emergency situation now.
No,
We've got
that-
all of this.
That did not really come up in the committee, Doc, to my knowledge, did it? No.
And if I may, I almost wonder too, if it was like a new set of eyes came in and kind of observed and was like, wow, you guys are really running short-staffed. Because Brittany said she's been spending some time there. So that's what I'm wondering, if like it was just brought to light, like,
It was originally on Lainey's desk, and then she brought it up a while ago. Even before it was brought to Lainey's desk, it was brought up to the previous CM. And instead of providing one assistant split between the both, he finally just said, all right, well, we'll just split with the clerk of council, we can make it a full-time position. So that's kind of how that happened. So it's been sitting out there for a while, it just never made its way to council. And I think now that we're short with Clayton being gone and Joel's kind of taking a lot of things on, and a new set of eyes, where I think we're all just looking at things a lot differently, of how do we, especially employee retention is a really big thing, because I look at what's going on at the police department, and my heart hurts for these people. I mean, to see how hard they work, and to see these officers go above and beyond for the community, no questions asked, and I don't see this admin person just helping chief. I think in the long run, it helps everybody in that department, because it alleviates a lot of stress of things that they've got going on, and gives them an avenue to have chief more where they need them on both sides, whether it's in the community or on the fire side.
Kevin, from your perspective?
I've got a couple things. One is, right now, insurance items go through my office. Do we anticipate that to stop? Because right now, we do any outside billing, or we chase them down, or they get turned over to the Attorney General. Would that be part of the duties, that it's removed from the person in my office?
No.
And-
Unless you wanted them to be, but no, a lot of what Kim handles is the after the fact stuff. So they send everything to Acumen handles that information, and then Kim gets that report of, this is how much we collected, here's your money, and then this is still how much they owe that we didn't collect, and that's what the city goes after then at that point.
Because that's, when we talk about a HIPAA situation and concern of that, wouldn't that be part of it, the less people we have, but you would still have Kim do that type of work?
Yeah.
Because she sees it all. It goes right through my office. I guess a community member actually approached me. I do like at least that there's a second and third option on the salary. And I'm not saying just to lowball this, but a comparison of the first option, as I don't think is a fair comparison in my eyes.
No.
You have a department of 2 people, very important person with a lot of responsibilities of those 2 people in that department. This person would be working with multiple people. So I think that needs to be addressed or looked at. And so I'm happy at least it came back that you have a second or third option with that. But saying I'll have to agree with what Billy says, it says I'd have to trust their opinion on that. I did not know about this. We had budget meetings throughout the process with individual members. I had a couple with the chief of police. I had one with Clayton and Joel Fry. And Chad, I hate to put you on the spot. This was never brought
No.
up in our informal discussions
No,
at all.
I've heard discussion over the last few years of them looking at modifying something, and that, I believe the first step of that was when they modified the clerk position. I was not aware of this position until we were preparing to take it to the committee. It was just, I wasn't in charge. I wasn't aware.
So those are my thoughts. I mean, whether you pass it or not, I don't have a vote. That leaves it up to you guys. I think if you do not pass this, that it should be relooked at, brought up again, and not just forgotten. Put it that way. And maybe not, and maybe even before next budget. Maybe it should be, relook at this, do some more research, 2 months, come back.
I do have another question regarding the record requests. I guess I was very surprised at how many. You said over 1,000 a year?
That's a rough estimate, yes, we've handled over 1,000.
Who,
This year, to date, we've got just shy, 778,
who is asking?
you name it.
Like, I mean, you're talking about just
Could be anything from.
citizens
Yes,
or,
could be anything from a crash report from a citizen who was involved, to attorneys on criminal, or not criminal, but typically civil cases, custody cases.
Okay.
You name it. We have property owners that come in and ask for public records on John Doe because he's looking for everything at, or give me all the records at a certain address because that's my address that I rent to, so I want to see what's going on there. You name it.
do we charge for that information?
Very, very small.
I would say,
Like,
and
for
can
instance,
we?
like 5 cents, 10 cents a page.
It's not,
You only cover.
it's
You-
not very much.
Governed by the
Some of that
Ohio
is
Revised
covered by
Code.
state law.
You cannot charge for your time, and that's what takes up the most. If you want to charge 5 cents or 25 cents a page, you can do
You can
that.
I
cover
see.
costs.
Okay.
But, yeah.
But that is one option, that's coming in around the clock. I would say that's probably one of the first things that Lieutenant Lake does every morning, other than schedule, is go through whatever came in the last 24 hours on records. It's one of our daily processes.
All right. Thank you. Didn't know that at all.
So I know we discussed last time a little bit about the records request and the 6th dispatcher taking on those duties. We have not filled that position in this year's time. You think this administrative assistant position would be able to be filled more quickly? And would we just, or could we just swap it? Get rid of that 6th dispatcher since it's not filled anyway? And that's not what, was sort of the intention to begin with.
When we talked about the 6th dispatcher, there was a lot of conversation, and public records was absolutely a big focus of that. But I think a bigger focus was our staffing and the amount of stress that's coming in, how many calls we're handling, the turnover of our dispatchers. We talked in great detail about the amount of hours, the amount of years of service we went to, that we had prior to the 6th dispatcher being disbanded, and then when we had 5, that years of service went significantly down. To kind of recap that, I'm not minimizing the public record piece because that's still true. And, one of the things that I like that large agencies don't even do is we take records requests around the clock. And part of that is because they come into our dispatches, part of that small town atmosphere. We want to try and get things accomplished. But, I look at our dispatch center much like a fuel gauge, green, yellow, red. And with 6, we operate pretty efficiently. No doubt about it. Whether we can have someone that's on some sort of sick leave, maternity leave, whatever that is, we can drop one and we're in that green to yellow phase. We can still suffer a loss. If we were in the situation we're right now, which is where we were at when we were doing that, where we were down 2 and we only had 5 dispatchers, now we're barely keeping our dispatch center open. If it's not for just officers that were sitting dispatch, there are definitely nights under that time frame that we would have to shut down and move our dispatch center calls for service to somebody. So when you're at 6, you can suffer 1 or 2 losses and still manage. That gets you in that yellow. But when you're constantly operating in that yellow thought process at middle of the tank, and you lose 1 or 2 because of timing, and now you're at 3, you're trying to cover 365, 7 days a week with 3 employees in a very stressful situation. So that was a big focus of that 6 dispatchers, trying to reduce the stress and the call volume. One of the things I know I spoke about in detail was for a long time, especially during that, we talked about the increased calls for service the fire department was seeing. That's a direct correlation with stress on my agency. staffing comes in handy in the dispatch. That's what helps us out there. Record retention is just a small piece of this whole big piece puzzle. But it is an important piece because it's something that's part of our everyday lives. I hope that helps.
I understand.
So I guess before I would vote on this, I would want to ask Marissa, if you would be able to provide a detailed description of your job duties, of what you've been told to do since you started. And we can evaluate if it's something that is, part of the clerk position, or maybe it's administrative for, you know, the city in different departments and different things. So with this being first read and knowing that you were gonna do that, I would definitely vote yes on this now, knowing that, hey, we have 2 more reads. Finding out if there is some room to take some things off of your plate that maybe shouldn't be on your plate, that could fill this void here. If not, then, you know, we can decide that later. That's, okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I guess one last statement. I just want to make sure, I want to restate a couple of things I said last week or last council meeting. I understand significantly budget concerns. I understand the timing concerns. We've had a major change in leadership at the city that was happening about the same time. The intent at the time was to handle this in committee prior to budget, but with a couple departures and changing of roles and things getting pushed back, it didn't happen that way. And I certainly want to make sure that our citizens understand it wasn't meant to be pull a fast one or anything like that, or a money grab. Timing and staffing has caused this issue with timing. It is what it is, and that's how that happened. I do understand the budget. I guess to echo Kevin's, my request is just that we keep it on our radar, because it was something that we were hoping we would get a lot of loose out of, and the actual is that we have not.
Right,
Thank you.
thank you. And I think I can speak for most, everybody on council, how, I think we have supported the police and fire, 120%, and we still want to. Just like you said, it's kind of, there's a lot to look at here, and we want to make sure we're doing what's right for our citizens, our taxpayers, and what's right for you and the fire department as well. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm conflicted here. I came into tonight thinking I was gonna vote no to this. You all made a compelling argument. Thank you for all the research you put into it. I'm in agreement with Council President. I would like to see the duties that Marissa currently has. It was my belief that by bringing on a clerk of council full-time, that we were going to address these issues. I'm disappointed that we didn't. If there's a way to fix that with our current situation, that would be my first choice. But I have no problem voting yes here and getting to second read and reevaluating. So thank you all for your contribution.
Anybody else have any comments, questions? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
No.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, that will be moving on to second read. Next is item H2, resolution number 081-22, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds in excess of $50,000 for the purpose of purchasing integrative software and all necessary appurtenances for the City of Napoleon Police Department, and to award said purchase to Central Square and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
A motion?
Second.
Yes, this legislation would allow us to enter into a contract with Central Square. This is the software purchase we discussed during budget for the police department. Chief, do you remember what the total was originally set to be? It was 190?
I was thinking 180, it was in that neighborhood.
We worked it out with them, and they have another method where you essentially have a license that is renewable. I believe the first year's around 130. So we were able to get the cost down, but to able to get 2022 pricing, they requested us to sign the contract before January 1st. The item is in our master bid ordinance to purchase in 2023. It is in the budget, but we would need this legislation to be able to sign the contract to purchase it in '23 with 2022 pricing. They did not give us any price adjustments in '23. They weren't sure, but they expect them to go up. We don't know that for certain, but the rep recommended to us that we sign a contract now and lock in the prices for this year. So this legislation would allow me to sign that contract.
Chief, you have anything else to add?
The only other thing I would say is that the sole source language, and that's because what we're trying to do is merge back with the sheriff's office so we can actually see each other's units and share information, something that we used to be able to do, and we lost that some years ago. So, and by doing that, it also reduced the cost of the city and county, to be honest, because we're sharing the cost of some of those things.
Right, the council has the authority to make purchases from a company without competitive bidding. We are doing that in this case so that we can piggyback on the sheriff's department's existing system,
That being in the best interest of the city.
being in the best interest of the city.
Pursuant to 10604, not sole source, not trying to.
No, but
Yeah.
specifically, the thing that's really.
I tried to get it.
Honestly, it's a good note by Mr. Harmon, because it is the biggest benefit we receive from our agency doing this is the sharing of information. When we're looking at criminal investigations, we have the same citizens that the county has. And currently, we're in two different systems. We don't share any information unless I happen to know the sheriff's office is handling something and I give them a call. The second huge benefit is when we have a mutual aid fire or something, they've got their units en route on one system, and we got ours on one system, and they do not see each other. So this would bring all that together, which is a huge benefit to the city, in my opinion.
And we are requesting suspension on this as well.
Yes, we're requesting suspension so that we can get the contract signed before the end of the year.
Okay.
Council President, if I could add,
Yes.
myself, Acting City Manager Chad, and Police Chief, we're all on a call, and I could just reiterate, they could guarantee us the pricing through the end of the year. It's not gonna go down, so I think this is a matter that we're going to do it anyway, and it's already budgeted, so let's lock in these prices.
Right. Thank you. All right. Give a motion for suspension.
I will move, unusual, but I will move that.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll on suspension.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, and Marissa, please call the roll on the resolution.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
That has been passed under suspension on first read. Moving on to item H3, ordinance number 082-22, an ordinance amending ordinance number 077-22 regarding compensation of the City of Napoleon Clerk of Council Records Retention position for the year 2023 and declaring an emergency.
A motion.
Second.
Chad?
Yes, this legislation has a couple components to it. First of all, it would modify the existing clerk position to be that of clerk and records retention. And then the other part of that is it modifies the salary to reflect that. Obviously, modifying this position would be dependent on the position we talked about earlier. The existing position now is set up to assist the police department. If we modify this position, it will no longer be as such. But that's the component that's contingent on the other position. Am I covering the bases on that?
Yeah. These two are, if the first position doesn't go through, we don't wanna make the changes to this one.
Right, we don't want to lose any help we may have available to the police department. So if it's acceptable, or if you want to discuss this further, by all means, but the fact that we are willing to consider first read on the other position, I would hope that we would at least consider first read on this one.
So would this increase the pay for this position?
Yes.
It is set up with some increased pay.
The last two steps are.
Yes, the top two steps are proposed to be changed, well, all four. It would go from 1648.2193 to 1765 and 2587 for the top.
So who is doing the records and retention position now?
Every department,
Department heads are essentially responsible for their own. They probably are lax, which usually means, doesn't mean that records are not kept. It usually means that old records that can be destroyed are not destroyed. And there is a procedure to be able to do that as a governmental entity. Forms you have to fill out, all the documentation. In general, a lot of times, if you don't have time to do that work, the records just stay. Now, engineering department, we mostly can't destroy anything. It's not a matter of, I'm not destroying records because I don't take the time. We just have to retain much of our records indefinitely. But some other departments, a lot of times it's handled by the department heads. I don't know how things are on finance, but I know at the plants, at operations, we do have Brandy assist, but a lot of times it falls on the superintendent.
so previously, when Roxanne was in the clerk of council spot, she handled a lot, just from when the finance director before was over the records part, she took on a lot, so she spearheaded our RC2 and our RC3s for the city as a whole, and pretty much is what kept everybody on schedule to make sure that we were following it. Now that we don't have a specific person who's able to focus on that, it's kind of, I wouldn't say falling to the wayside, we're just more trying to keep up on ourselves versus having somebody keep us on track.
We don't have that one single person monitoring the retention schedules as a whole anymore.
So I guess I'm still on board with moving forward with the first ordinance and getting more information. And then most likely doing the same thing for this one with pointing out the reason for the public safety administrative assistant position is because our clerk of council position doesn't have time to do that position. So if we create a new position for $70,000, now we're saying the clerk of council has time to do another role. And we should pay more for that.
If we remove the police department responsibilities
Which hasn't
from-
been being done at all.
Right, but if there is time available, the time that would be removed, the responsibilities removed would then be filled by the records retention duties. And I believe these wages were set to reflect some other positions. The senior accounts payable clerk is what this was set up to mirror. If I can find it. This one, well, the senior account clerk is higher.
Well, I wonder if those are the 3% increases, it's probably because.
Oh, this list might already have the 3.5 on it.
Yeah.
So it was set up to mirror that position.
So currently, the pay scale that the assistant sits under, or the clerk of council sits under, is classified as the administrative assistant position that we have in our current budget. And those are the rates for it, the current structure.
Sure.
We changed the last two C&D step to match what the senior clerk was at, knowing that their rates were gonna go up.
If I remember correctly, it changed C and D, but this person is not in either category, so it shouldn't affect the budget this year, correct?
Well, this would probably be a new hire unless we had someone internal. So it would depend on what step they were placed, and that's usually dictated by experience.
The current person who holds the position sits in D.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori?
I think that, because I'm going to hold to what I thought before with the administrative, position, that we would talk about that later in the year and not now, that this would be putting the cart before the horse a little bit, so I'm gonna vote no for this.
Ross?
No.
Joe?
No.
Dan?
Yes.
Dr. Dave?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Three. Billy, does that move on? I see you're looking over there.
So I'll defer to the clerk. Without looking at it, I'm pretty sure it does not.
I'll look through, I don't think it does either. It
Yeah,
has to be a majority.
no, it's gotta be a majority.
Right.
I'm waiting to get official.
Doesn't go to the mayor for a tiebreaker? I remember seeing action.
It doesn't go to the bank.
It just has to be a majority.
Or he's got vetoes. Feel bad?
We're not broadcasting, I could. Just bring up the
Mr.
Jeopardy
Small, do you
thing.
see why I moved this on to the committee now? Based on a previous conversation.
We can check that
The
later.
answer
We
is
can move on.
no. I'm just looking for the specific citation. So it does not.
Does not pass, that's fine.
But the
Okay.
mayor is allowed to ask for a, what's the word called? It's not a veto.
Reconsideration.
Reconsideration.
That is true.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this from the no votes. So we're in favor of looking at changing the admin assistant and exploring that further, but not adding records retention to the clerk of council because that's where I'm kind of confused.
I guess I would say because what we discussed on the public safety administrative assistant position, it wouldn't happen immediately. So if
This
we
one
did
either.
pass it in 4 weeks from now, maybe, say 4 months from now, we fill that position. And then we could bring this back then if this is needed.
Otherwise, then the police duties would be taken from her.
Right,
Then what?
yeah. Yeah, you gotta do this one before the other one, in my opinion.
Don't you do them at the same time? And to me, it's a pair. That's why I'm just kind of confused. Because if we're gonna
But if
change
we
one,
pass the-
if we're gonna change one,
Right,
then we're probably gonna change both of them. So you change the one, and you'd make sure that you had your clerk of council and your records retention thing set solid. And then you try to go find your admin assistant. If the clerk of council is gonna apply for the assistant position. Or am I just thinking this completely wrong? That's why I'm confused.
yeah.
Yeah, my thought behind voting no here was, one, I don't like doing raises outside of budget time. Two, I think department heads are fully capable of doing their own records retention. I looked at it as irrelevant.
So in that regards, then if it comes back later, you're still gonna vote no.
Correct.
And so then the clerk of council becomes just the clerk of council,
Maybe it was a part-time spot,
then a part-time spot.
Yeah.
Why would it be a part-time?
because you would be taking, if you approve the other one, you'd be taking all the police duties off of it, so it becomes
She's
part-time.
not doing the police
Right,
duties anyway.
But, yeah, for the last 7 months, from what we're hearing,
She does
she's
20%
only,
of the work, is what she said. She has 20% time for chief to work on his stuff, 80% she works on council stuff, so.
That's why I asked about the request for furniture and stuff for Marissa specifically at the police department. She's not there. I'm not sure. If they're in a position or-
Okay. I believe reconsideration asks for a new vote, right? Here we go.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And we would cite if nothing changed, 6.2 and 6.3.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure.
Okay. I just think in my mind, they go hand in hand. If we're gonna potentially look at one, then we're potentially looking at the other one. And I understand that department heads can do their own records retention. I think if you get that centralized, it's a whole lot easier to follow and it becomes somebody's duty to do it and not at the bottom of somebody's daily list. Right? I want my water superintendent making water. The records is gonna become way down on this list. And I'd rather have somebody kind of watching this stuff and making sure the records get, the proper records get retained at the proper timestamp. That's just, so.
Brittany,
So they're not taking records off our plate. We're still responsible for our own records.
And just the
This
retention
person
piece.
would just make sure we're staying on schedule, is pretty much that person would do. So Marissa, the way Marissa's laying it out, 80% would be the clerk of council, the other 20% would just be making sure that we're following our records retention schedule like we're supposed to, making sure we're supposed to have 2 meetings a year, making sure we're having those 2 meetings a year, making sure that they're getting brought up on, hey, this is what our full schedule looks like, make sure that you're bringing what you need to the table so that we can get rid of it, so we're not keeping things for years on end. Because right now I have a full room of stuff that needs to be destroyed that's been here way too long, and right now anybody can ask for it, because I have it.
So having somebody in the position to tell you to get rid of it will make you do it?
Well, to keep us
I
on
thought
schedule,
too.
yeah, because the amount of schedules that are out there, we don't have just one, every department has their own, versus if we had the record retention person, there'd be one specific schedule for the whole city, every record would be on it that we have between all departments, and there'd be that one piece that we have to follow, versus I have stuff that I have to verify with chief based on what they need in the police department of their personnel records that have to be kept, and I have to follow, hey, it's not mine. And so if I could just have one schedule versus having to ask different departments what they need to get, it'd be a lot easier.
When Roxanne was doing that in the clerk of council role, was her job title or job responsibility changed and was she compensated for it?
Roxanne was classified, she wasn't classified as administrative assistant, she was classified as something else.
Well, she wasn't transferred, she voluntarily moved. I believe she was classified as something else because she also had other duties as well. During that time period, she still retained all of my contract documents and prepared all of such. I believe when she stepped out of that role, the job description was modified again.
It was. And that's where it changed to becoming the administrative assistant instead of.
Yeah. So I'm sure when Roxanne was in that position with the additional duties that it was a different pay scale. I personally don't know how the current pay scale came to be. I wasn't privy to that information.
I can get that information for you.
And I understand it was voted down. If we get to the point with the other position, if instructed by council, we could always bring this one back. So.
Really help me out. When I do a reconsideration, does that automatically invoke an additional vote on the same thing?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would ask for,
A revote, please.
That's what you're asking for?
Yep.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
No.
Ross,
No.
Joe,
No.
Dan,
Yes.
Roxy,
yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item H4. Ordinance number 083-22, an ordinance appointing J. Andrew Small as the city manager of Napoleon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. I think we should have done this before these first three. You're not changing your mind, are you? Hey, welcome.
He's still sitting here. Don't scare him away even more.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. You want to come up?
Sure.
Do you have a speech prepared or
I do
anything?
not.
No?
I do not.
All right.
But I thank you. I appreciate the confidence you have in me. I look forward to the challenges. I know there will be some. I've been doing whatever homework I can do in the last couple of weeks to try and get up to speed as quickly as possible. Last week I had the opportunity to sit with Brittany for an hour or so. I was able to go to the staff meeting on Tuesday morning, and I was even fortunate enough to sit with the police chief in a labor relations meeting. You know, all of that helps me get up to speed as quickly as possible. I have some communication already with some members of the community. Spoke today with the superintendent of the schools about some issues, and as I said, I'm just doing what I can to get up to speed, and I thank you very much for the opportunity.
I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you one question. Why do you want to do this?
Why do I want to do this?
Yep.
Gosh, I don't know.
Sorry.
No, the position had opened up in 2014, and opened up again in 2016. Each time it opened up, I gave it a little bit of consideration, but the timing was just not right. I've been at General Motors for going on 29 years. I'd love to start tomorrow here, but I feel like I owe them. They've provided for me very well, me and my family. So I'm giving them the time to be able to try and replace me. That's a joke. But I have some things I'm trying to wrap up there. But the timing was perfect. I can retire from General Motors, and I was ready to retire from General Motors. And with this positioning opening up now, the timing was very good. It's just something I always had an interest in. I worked very closely with then City Manager John Beischer when I was in office for 12 years. And I spoke at length with John, or I listened at length with John, when I first decided to seek this position. And he was a great mentor to me, and I feel like I just through osmosis, I was able to gain quite a bit through him when I was in office. So I feel like there's definitely a learning curve,
but I've tried to mitigate that as much as possible, so that come January 9th, I'm ready to hit the ground running. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, moving on to,
Thank you.
item I, second readings of ordinances and resolutions. I-1, ordinance number 078-22, an ordinance authorizing the transfer of a portion of certain property to wit,
Approximately.
yes, thank you. Approximately 0.733 acres, more or less, of real property parcel number 41-110048.000, owned by the city of Napoleon, Ohio, to the Ohio Department of Transportation, and declaring an emergency. Motion.
A motion.
Second.
Chad?
We discussed this last week, last meeting. This would allow us to donate the property to ODOT, that's the old DT&I railroad bed underneath of 24. At the last meeting, council requested that I get written confirmation from ODOT that they will construct a path from the existing path on our property over to 108. I did receive written confirmation from ODOT that that is their intention to have that included in part of the project. So if it is council's intention to donate this property, I encourage you to move forward with this legislation.
When are they gonna do this?
They have not given me a schedule on this project.
Like 20?
I don't see it happening, it could be 25, 26, I know it's not 23, and I'm fairly certain it's not 24, but they have not given me what their schedule is on this project.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item I-2, resolution number 079-22, a resolution appointing Mayor Jason Mazel and councilperson Molly Nepoli to represent the city of Napoleon, Ohio as members of the Board of Directors of the Community Improvement Corporation of Henry County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Motion. Second.
I don't think there's any discussion needed there.
No changes, just second read.
All right. Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, moving on to third readings of ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 064-22, an ordinance creating the non-bargaining position of Geographic Information Systems Technician, Senior Technician for City of Napoleon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Chad?
No changes, this just creates the GIS position in the engineering department, so.
All right. Any questions or comments?
So I think that based on the history, it's a good idea to get this done.
And we've had a little bit of interest, even just from the discussions with this legislation. So hopefully we can get that position filled and not have it be October or something, but yeah. We're hopeful.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, that has been passed on third read. Moving on to J2, ordinance number 065-22, an ordinance creating the non-bargaining position of Assistant Chief of Police for the City of Napoleon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
A motion.
Second.
This item, just third read on the restructuring of the police department. There will be no new hires. It'll be just transfers and promotions. So just ask for third read.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Okay, that is passed on third read. Item J3, resolution number 066-22, a resolution extending the provisions contained in ordinance number 021-18 and resolutions number 086-19, 072-20, and 046-21, wherein council impose a temporary reduction and/or temporary elimination of certain residential building permit fees and declaring an emergency. Motion.
Second.
This item is the legislation to waive some of the building fees as we've done in several years past. It's increased, or we believe it's had a positive impact on building inside the city, and just request passage, and we can continue to waive those fees.
All right. Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, right now I'd like to, make a motion to go into executive session for economic development for, necessary to protect the interest and investment of public funds.
So moved.
Second.
Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
A motion to come out of executive session for economic development, for necessary to protect the interest and investment of public funds.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Okay, no action taken. Moving on to item J4, resolution number 067-22, a resolution strongly supporting the Napoleon area schools resolution in taking legal action regarding the cultural center of Henry County. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Chad, you have anything to add on this?
Nope, this resolution just states the council's support for the school and their position on this issue.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, that has passed on third read. Item J5, resolution number 068-22, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds and authorizing a department director to take bids on certain projects, services, equipment, materials, and supplies without the requirement for additional legislation to do so in the year 2023 and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Second.
Nothing.
Just third read on what's generically referred to as our master bid list for 2023.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Okay, that is passed on third read. Item J6, resolution number 069-22, a resolution authorizing expenditure of funds in excess of $50,000 in for the year 2023 as it relates to reoccurring costs associated with the operation of the city for payment of expenses and for purchases associated with vendors utilized by multiple departments within the city, elimination of necessity of competitive bidding in and for the year 2023 as it relates to certain transactions and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Second.
Questions, comments?
This is just the master vendor supplier list for 2023, so.
Thank you. Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Okay, that's passed on third read. J7, resolution number 070-22, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor of Henry County for 2022, tax duplicates payable in 2023, and declaring an emergency. Motion?
A motion?
Second.
Anything new?
Nothing new
The-
on this one.
This is to the Budget Commission that's telling us that we're accepting the amount of money that will be brought in, the estimated amount, through the tax levies. I will duly note that these are not new monies. There's discussion in papers of other levies that are coming in. These are all been on there before, they've been paid before. And in addition, only one of these are actually voted upon. The others are all inside millage. So I think we do our due diligence that we do not rely heavily on property taxes with that. But as a whole, this is the third read of how much revenue they will bring in.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, that is passed on third read. J8, resolution number 071-22, a resolution authorizing and directing the finance director of the city of Napoleon to certify and file annual special assessments of the city of Napoleon, Ohio within the county auditor of Henry County for placement and collection on the 2022 tax duplicates payable in the year 2023 and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Second?
Kevin?
Third read, these are the assessments that either could be a nuisance or a water line project that we had that we assess the property owners on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Hey, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, item J9, resolution number 072-22, a resolution authorizing a contribution to the Community Improvement Corporation of Henry County, Ohio, in and for the year 2023 and declaring an emergency.
so move.
Second.
All right. Chad?
Just third read for our contribution to the CIC for their operating for 2023.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that is passed on third read. Item J10, ordinance number 073-22, an ordinance establishing an appropriation measure budget of the city of Napoleon, Ohio for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, listed in Exhibit A and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Second?
Chad?
Just third read for your 2023 budget. This one is the budget.
Hey, Marissa, please call the roll.
If I could add,
Yes.
it's just that this was effective January 1. This allows us to open up for business. Once this is passed, we are able to pay bills, we are able to do payroll, and continue right into next year. So, other talk that was done earlier, again, this is what we'll start out the year with. Adjustments may be able to be made
Okay.
at a later date.
Thank you for that clarification.
I just want to say thanks one more time to Chad and Kevin and all of the department heads. I know it's a lot of work, especially to be placed right into that position a week before, 2 weeks before. Really appreciate it.
It was rough. We made it.
So, didn't miss a beat.
Had a lot of help from staff.
Anybody else? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
And that is passed on third read. Item J11, resolution number 074-22, a resolution authorizing the finance director to transfer certain fund balances from respective funds to other funds per section 5705-.14 ORC on an as-needed basis in fiscal year 2023, listed in Exhibit A, and declaring an emergency.
A motion.
Sec-
Kevin?
Third read, this hasn't changed since the other two reads. These are just the transfers when we go from one fund to the next. The example I gave last time, as I'll give it again, is all the income tax money goes into fund, what we call 170, and then it gets distributed out to either the rec, the general fund, or capital. So this allows us to move those monies once it's received.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Okay, that is passed on third read. Item J12, ordinance number 075-22, and ordinance amending the allocation of funds as found in sections 193.11 and 194.013 of codified ordinances of the city of Napoleon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Second.
Kevin?
This is one that we do every year with the budget. This year allows the split of the income tax that is brought in, other than the rec income tax that was separate. And this year, it's gonna be split at a 65-35%, with 65 go to the general fund, 35% to the capital fund.
Thank you.
And that has very different percentages throughout the years. So this is what we budgeted upon.
All right. Any questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, that is passed on third read. Item J13, ordinance number 076-22, and ordinance apportioning the expenses incurred, including wages, salary, and fringe benefits of the mayor, council, and various other departments of the city of Napoleon, which are not otherwise directly charged to special and/or capital projects among various accounts effective January 1st, 2023, amending ordinance numbers 104-09, 087-19, 069-20, and 059-21, and declaring an emergency.
A motion.
Second.
This legislation just allows for the transfer of funds to pay for individuals that have, their business involves multiple parts of the city, whether it be electric, water, sewer, allows some of those costs to be offset by those restricted accounts. It's just one of our annual pieces of legislation to allow for those.
Can we add an amendment in here for the guy that has to read all of these, that should get paid a little bit more in here?
I was
or
thinking
not?
about making them wordier. I like the sound of your voice.
Don't you dare, Greg Heath.
Depends how nice you are to Tammy.
That's true.
If I could add, just as clarification, the city manager they oversee the water department, the electric department. So the water department fund, the electric department fund pay for part of their salary. Just as the finance director, the work that is under my umbrella, we pay the payroll for them, their bills for them. Billy is the law director for their issues, so it's just broken up for the work that is estimated that we do throughout the years for those other departments.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Dustin,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Okay, item J14, ordinance number 077-22, and ordinance establishing a new position classification pay plan for employees of the city of Napoleon, Ohio for the year 2023, repealing ordinance number 053-21, and declaring an emergency.
Motion?
Second.
No change here is third read on the pay plan for the non-bargaining unit, which is set up as 3.5%.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Dustin,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item K, go to the city. K1 is discussion and action, appointment of 2 council members to the Volunteer Fire Dependents Fund Board. Right now, who is on that?
You and Ken.
Okay. I'm happy to stay on it and would assume Ken would too, unless somebody else wants to. If not, could I have a motion to have myself and Ken continue on that board?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Dustin,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, that has been approved. K2, discussion and action, appointment of 2 council members to the Volunteer Peace Officers Dependent Fund Board, which again is myself and Councilman Hayes. Should I have a motion to approve that?
A motion?
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
yes,
Dustin,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Okay, that's been approved. Item K3, discussion and action review, approval of power supply cost adjustment factor for December 2022, PSCAF 3-month average factor 0.01988, and JV2 0.055688. Chad?
I'll defer the AMP issues to Kevin.
This is just our annual or monthly rate that we charge our customers for the power, 0.01988. It's a tick up from last month, but it's steady within range that it would typically be this time of year. There's been some scheduled outages that took place that cut off they couldn't make power or sell it. And then we still have our diesel costs that are up there quite a bit. But with all that going on, the rate is right in range.
Not to put you on the spot at all, but just from what I've been hearing, there's a lot of other communities, other people that are not a part of, say, AMP or APPA, that their costs have gone up quite a bit in the last 8 months.
It is certainly helpful that the city of Napoleon is diversified in hydro, coal, solar, wind, diesel power plants, so that certainly offsets the cost. I will also say how the city of Napoleon does it is a 3-month average, where some cities and villages, the rate is the rate, and this is what it comes in, which you can get some more highs and lows. And there's also some that only do it once a year. It's however you want to do it, and so you could escalate too if you just did it once a year.
Right.
But overall, we're fortunate that I think most people here understand. But like what we're part owners of is diversified amongst different levels of how to produce energy in different states. There's challenges with that, but that helps us.
Right. I think we're benefiting from that, especially right now compared to a lot of other times. We're paying a lot less than a lot of other,
Yes.
yeah.
And I'll speak to that. I live on another provider, and my rate is higher. So,
Good. Oh, sorry to hear that, Chad.
me too.
For you.
Every month.
Make a motion to approve?
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes?
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, that has been approved. Item K4, discussion or action to accept a $10,000 donation to the police department.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I wanted to thank everybody for their support throughout the year and have a good holiday and Merry Christmas. This is something that, my dedication to the community has been big, and we're trying to do that throughout the whole department. But very rarely do you get a letter like this. And, so I appreciate the time to read it. This turned out to be Sergeant Roofer, is who we found out this letter to pertain to. To whom it may concern, my father, and there's some redactions, died on November of 2022. My mother was attempting to drive him to the Napoleon, Ohio emergency room when he died. My sister lives in Ohio. The Napoleon police were called to collect my sister and get her to the hospital to be with my mother and drive her home after my dad had passed. The Napoleon Police Department went above and beyond the call of duty and displayed incredible tenderness with my sister. I wanted to show my appreciation for their work that they do every day that does not get recognized. The officers' names are not known to me, but I wanted to give a donation to the entire police department for any additional training they might need to receive that is not in their annual budget. If there is no additional training that's available, then any infrastructure that needs additional resources, I would like to contribute to that initiative. The Napoleon Mayor, Jason Mazel, has been very helpful in helping me find a way to give back to those that protect us every day. Jason has also been able to provide official Napoleon addresses so that I can send my contribution to the right police force. Thank you. And the donor wished to be anonymous at that time, but I do appreciate their effort of writing this and reaching out to the mayor.
Thank you for all you do and everyone in your department. You guys, like you said in the beginning, you don't get these kind of letters very often. I know everyone in here appreciates everything you do, and I think a lot of citizens do as well.
I agree.
But just like anywhere else, it's a lot easier to complain than it is to compliment, so
Absolutely.
well deserved.
Appreciate it.
This is putting money where your mouth is.
That's right, exactly.
Stuff officers do day in and day out that nobody knows. And now we do, right? So,
And it's not on that letter, but this is substantial, $10,000
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
donation.
You know, another thing that's great about this letter is this person didn't know somebody's name. So somebody wasn't like putting their hand, hey, if you want to thank me, my name is, it's not about them. It's about helping people. Appreciate what they do. So would anyone like to make a motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes?
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right.
To this donor.
Yeah. All right, we'll go around the table here and start with Chad tonight.
Okay, I included in your packet a memo from Jeremy Oakley, the wastewater treatment plant superintendent, recognizing that on December 7th, Kent Bacon received the Northwest section of the Ohio Water Environment Association Kathleen M. Cook Laboratory Analyst of the Year Award at their meeting this year. Kent starts his 43rd year tomorrow, which would have been last week. And for some reason, Jay hopes that he chooses to continue for many years to come. But Kent does an incredible job down there. He's been running that lab forever. And for him to get some recognition, we really appreciate that. So.
Awesome.
we issued a press release today, Christmas holiday coming up for the city. They'll be closed on Monday and Tuesday. However, we will run the refuse recycling routes as we would with just the Monday closed. So Tuesday will be the Monday route, Wednesday will be the Tuesday route, Thursday will be the double day, Wednesday and Thursday route, and Friday is its normal day. So even though we're closed for Monday and Tuesday of that week, we will have refuse recycling working on that Tuesday. So that press release was supposed to go out today.
Is it the same for the following week again with the holiday?
It will be, even though we're only on closed Monday, they will have Monday. So, other than that, you passed the most important piece of legislation tonight. We did not have suspension on that, correct? We will need to suspend that next time.
Right.
So, I missed that earlier, but yes, we will need to suspend that next time. Other than that.
Which one are
that's-
you talking about, Chad?
You know, the one that gives me a new boss.
Okay.
So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Billy,
Nothing from me. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.
Dr. Dave,
You missed that one.
I missed that one.
Missed it.
I'd like to say, welcome aboard. I'm looking forward to working with Andy Small, and I think it's a good choice.
thank you.
Also glad to hear about the police department. That says quite a testament to what you guys do every day. That's all I have.
Thank you. Dan,
The only thing I have to say basically is, Mr. Small, I appreciate your willingness to come back to work for the city. And I agree with Dr. Dave. We look forward to working with you.
thank you. Mr. Mayor,
I start beginning preparation for my 2023 State of the City. Like to have the top 3 or 4 accomplishments from each department. Hopefully by the first council meeting in January, because I'll present it on the 16th of January. I'm assuming our council meeting is not going to be on Monday, January 2nd. It'll be on Tuesday, January the 3rd.
Correct.
Okay,
Or that's what we've done in the past.
that's, yeah. So is that okay with everybody? You gotta ask. Which will need a new calendar, Marissa, a new wall calendar. Yep, thank you. Yep. Otherwise, have everybody have a Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year.
thank you. Welcome, Andy. Look forward to working with you. And Chad, I have a question for you regarding this nasty winter weather that I can't stand. So
Yes.
I did see and hear some complaints from this weekend when we had that little bit of icy
Yes.
conditions. Which, and I know we've talked about this the last few years. It seems like in our area, I mean, there's times that we may get 3 or 4 inches of snow or more, or we just get that, just enough to make the roads very slick. And that's what seemed to happen on, what was it, Saturday night?
Saturday night.
And I just want to know, what is our policy or what is our procedure for events like that?
When the patrol notices that we're starting to get slippery conditions, they will call our standby personnel. We had one individual on standby Saturday. We looked at what we needed to cover it, and we had the standby person address it. The call came in at 7:59 PM to all our phones. So yeah, then once we got the call for bridges and intersections, that's when we had someone come in and start putting down salt. If it's a forecasted event that we expect there to be issues, we will pre-treat. But we didn't
Yeah.
we didn't pre-treat for what we got Saturday night.
Right,
But
okay.
it seemed as though, once we got someone in and started salting the bridges and the intersections, that cleared up most of the issues in town. I did hear there were a lot of issues on 24. That's not us, but, yeah.
Well, and I think with social media now being so instant, that once it gets slippery, people are upset that, hey, it's slippery right now, why are the roads slippery? I mean, they don't give even
Right.
15 minutes or
Yeah,
let
from-
alone 2 hours to have somebody come in, load up
Right.
and go out there, so.
From the time the road gets slippery, we
Yeah.
have to have it noticed by someone at
Right.
PD. We have to have the call go out. It takes that individual 15 to 30 minutes to get to the city.
Right.
Then, as you said, then we have to load the trucks.
And they
There's a
can't, like,
process.
they can't spread the salt on every street in 2 seconds. They have to go to
No.
each street individually.
In fact, if it's a bad event, it takes 4 trucks on shifts to cover every street in town. 4 full-size dump trucks.
But I did notice what you said in the beginning, they focus on the overpasses and intersections first.
Overpasses, intersections, and bridges. Then if we have a major event, then they bring in everybody. But that's usually a large accumulation event.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
And we do have an event coming, but we have not received any forecast on the accumulation amounts.
Right.
That is being monitored very closely, and if we suspect we need to pre-treat, we will.
Thank you. The last thing, the simulator at the
Yes.
golf course. You have an update on that for us?
I spoke with Tony. He got the parts in that he needed. He's had them installed. However, just running the equipment is going to take a little bit of time by staff. He's hoping to have it open to the public the week after Christmas, but they're gonna try to throw everything at it they can think of and see what bugs come out of it. The last thing they wanna do is have somebody rent it for a few hours, something goes haywire, and the staff doesn't know how to fix it on the spot. So they're trying to do as much with it this week to try to work those out and hoping they can open it next week.
And how would someone book or like reserve a spot? Is it the call or online?
They could call the clubhouse direct, but if the clubhouse is closed at the time, just call into the city's main number, the front desk, 419-592-4010.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Ross?
I have nothing.
That was easy. Lori?
I just have a few thank yous. I want to thank Brittany for all the work to prepare for tonight and the discussion. I appreciate that. Chief, in your department, thank you for doing the city proud. And obviously, thank you to the donor for that great donation. Thank you, Andy, for accepting this position. I look forward to working with you too. And Merry Christmas to all of you. I guess I'll see you in the new year.
Yeah, thank you. Molly?
Yes, welcome, Andy. I do, considering re-election, I don't think I'm going to run again. I know, I have enjoyed my time with everyone, but, my family's getting older and it's getting harder.
Is it because you have to sit next to Kevin? I mean, we can switch seats.
He did buy me a foot.
Oh, that's
You
right.
can't take that with you.
I actually hope to, once the kids get older, I'd like to come back.
Great.
It's just really difficult right now, so.
I understand. Thank you. Kevin?
I get the last word in, I guess. So, next council meeting, we're gonna have to set the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and it's gonna need to be the week of January 9th, between the first meeting and the second meeting. The time frame that I have, and what's really skewing this, is that we have payroll that we pay everyone on the 30th of December. So then, at that point, we'll know of all the adjustments that are needed. So, next council meeting, or you could do it today if you want, January 3rd, we're gonna have to set that meeting, or before then, for the week of the January 9th. The 3rd, we'll have to ask the law director to enact legislation from that meeting. The 16th, you will approve the legislation, and then that would allow us to close out 2022 on the 17th or 18th of January, which is a good time frame for that. because we'll be at 2 to 3 weeks of 2022 is open, 2023 is open. So that's the time frame that we'll have to look at with that. So, on December 10th, there was some sort of football game that was played, and I'm
There was.
surprised nobody mentioned that. So, I think what.
We can talk in full detail about it, Kevin, if you want. We talk about Army beating Navy in overtime. The first overtime in 123-year history of Army Navy. We talk about that. We can talk about how Navy fumbled inside the one and Army got the ball back. We talk about that.
Is that what happened?
That's what happened.
The over hit.
The over did hit.
First time.
In a long time, the over hit. Yeah.
That's
If
all,
those are-
that's
those
all.
are enjoying your-
You can hit the gavel now, that's all I have.
I didn't bring it up.
Congratulations.
I'm gonna finish it, but I didn't bring it up.
All right, so, I wasn't gonna do this, but I didn't get any presents today, so I am going to call an executive session for personnel. Compensation of personnel. Could I have a motion? Yeah, got it. Nobody else in a second.
I'll second.
Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes?
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
I'll bring a timer, like 7 minutes. Session for compensation and personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, could I have a motion to direct the law director to draft legislation for compensation for the finance director for 3.5%?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
All right, and could I have a motion to direct the law director to draft legislation for a 3.5% increase for the finance director?
Just did.
That was the previous.
I'm sorry.
I'll take another 3.
Yep, you want another one? Take 3.5 from that guy. For the law director.
So, second.
Jeez.
Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
And 100% for the council president. All right, moving on to item L, approve payment of bills and financial reports. In the absence of any objections or corrections, the payments of bills and financial reports shall stand approved. Stand approved. A motion for adjournment.
A motion.
Second.
Marissa, please call the roll.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Dave,
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
We are adjourned.